So, it's now 2020. Google Stadia launched during the 2019 holiday season, and the gaming community didn't take too kindly to it. The reviews were pretty messy. The launch itself had less features than originally promised, and there were just some issues that customers were having. It doesn't seem like it's taken the world by storm since launch, so now we're asking the question, what happens to Google Stadia now? Where does it go? Does it die? Well, let's put our thinking caps on and just dive in here. So first things first, Stadia itself. I reviewed it in a before you buy video, and it was difficult to recommend. The streaming technology is kinda hit or miss, and results vary everywhere for every person in every location on every level of internet. But boy, I will say, when it works really well and it looks good. It might even be useful for certain people. Maybe folks who don't play tons and tons of games, only a select few. Maybe they want to play games while traveling. Maybe people want to play games in a hotel room or something and not lug around a laptop or a Switch. I don't know. But Google wants $10 a month for Stadia Pro as a subscription. This gets you access, basically early access. You have to get the big $100 plus Founders Edition with a controller to try any of it out. Regular subscription options, I guess, are coming, they've said, and a free version is coming in 2020. Stadia Pro subscription gets you what has amounted to 2 free games a month, access to more features like, weirdly enough, the highest quality 4K HDR 5.1 streaming options. Other than that, you have to buy games on Google's marketplace. You're paying $10 a month to get access to their store to buy shit. As it stands right now, at least. That'll probably change this year, but still, the prices on the store are the same as everywhere else, if not higher, and you can only stream these games. And all of this stuff, all of this stuff is just like not appealing for a lot of gamers, it seems. And I've kind of said it in the before you buy it, and I do feel strongly here. The fact that I needed to break that all down to you in a big long paragraph in the opening of this video to explain it just means it's pretty complicated for the average consumer who might not know much about it. There's quite a bit to figure out exactly what you're getting, and first impressions are very important. And if you're confused, that's a bad thing. Especially when this thing was initially announced and dubbed as easy as having an account, clicking on a game on your browser, and suddenly you can play it. No, it's not really instant games anywhere, and it's not really the Netflix of games either, which is okay. But it's just another game marketplace, one with the least amount of ownership out of all of them, since you're paying for a license not even to download, just to stream a game. There was a lot going on at launch. There were lots of people who pre-ordered day one, excitedly, who didn't get their units. And varying reports of performance was one thing. It's worth pointing out that plenty of other reviewers had a much better experience than us, more smooth, but it was all the other technical stuff that saw some scrutiny and may have alienated more potential buyers. A lot of outlets like Digital Foundry and stuff confirmed that most of the Stadia games that boasted 4K in big bold letters weren't actually native 4K output at all. Destiny 2 is rendered at 1080p and upscaled to 4K to look a little better. Red Dead Redemption 2, despite having the infinite computing power of the cloud, couldn't hold a candle to the same actual version running on an actual PC. Google's response seems to have put the responsibility on the developers themselves to make their game take advantage of Stadia's features like 4K. Okay, sure, they are really the ones making the game, so it makes sense, but still, it just kind of put a damper on the launch. Because the potential was there for some people who maybe didn't have the money to run out and buy the newest console that supports 4K to still get a lot of that exciting action through this streaming service. I don't know. But the biggest problem, is that it should have been early access. It was only playable on a select few types of phones and tablets, limited mostly to Google's Pixel phone line. Thankfully, the browser support worked pretty nicely, as any computer with Chrome could get games in a window. Or you could use the Chromecast bundled in with the Founders box to get any game playing on your TV. But as things go further down the line, Founders Edition big box $100 plus thing won't be a thing. They're just gonna have to either buy a Chromecast or hope you have one. There's just a lot to it all, considering how simple it should be. Now, the store is getting more and more games, but it doesn't have tons. The free games are decent. There's an exclusive game, but it didn't really blow the doors down. The features on the account and app side and just the promised stuff is still light. Generally, ourselves and many others ruled this should be considered an early access product for real, but Google is asking for a lot of money to buy in and being dubbed a founder. Now, after launch, a lot of folks tried pretty hard to just get a gauge on how many people are actually playing on Stadia. response hasn't been super loud. The stat tracking bot Charlemagne claimed that by the end of November, 9,960 Stadia players logged in to play Destiny 2 during a specific day. This is, of course, compared to on the same day, 1.37 million players logging into Destiny everywhere else. Destiny 2 is also one of Stadia's flagship free games, so anyone could have downloaded and play it who had Stadia. And that's all who are playing it. That's it. Hell, it might be just people logging in at work or at school just to redeem some rewards or something. I don't know. PC Games N reported that on November 20th, Stadia had 44 players in Crucible, 13 players in Gambit, and 52 players in Raids. That's like 100 people playing all the non-PvE modes, and that's kind of crazy. Here in the office, some of our Destiny guys, the fans, definitely had trouble finding matches. Now, you might say, well, everyone hates Destiny, so that's why no one's playing it, which that's fine if you think, you do you, but the numbers don't lie on the actual game, and it's at least somewhat of a gauge on the response of Stadia, considering it had everything going for it, including being free and having cross-account progression, and still, this is where we're at. The potential for all this is there. I still say, I stand by it, the tech is exciting, and the future possibilities down the line are definitely cool. Watching a YouTube video or your favorite creator, or maybe you're watching like a how-to guide video, and then you click a link and suddenly you're playing the game right there at that point on your computer, that's insane. I'm excited for the free version that'll come out in 2020, like they said, because everyone has a Google account. So if they do it right, if they do kind of nail this stuff, it could be a win-win. Because at the very least, people without the resources could be able to try way more games than they'd normally be exposed to, That's where they need to hone in. That's where I think they need to go from here. Really, this is all speculation on my end from here on out, but I think the potential is there, but not as Google Stadia exists currently, like at all. I think it could be stronger as a service with highly unique features instead of just another marketplace with some unique features. You know what I mean? They've been putting out games consistently every month, and they just need to keep it up and evolve into exactly what people might want. It seems like they don't know it yet. They have a lot to work on, improving the tech, of course, but bring more feature parity, more supported devices, and of course some of those cool features that they talked about in general that will all only benefit it. But the biggest battle still, and this is the hardest one, and I'm not even convinced, the battle is convincing people. A lot of people still have very bad internet all over the world, and streaming video games, even if the requirements with Stadia are surprisingly low, it's still a pipe dream for some people, and rightly so. A lot of people think Google is gonna ditch this thing like a ton of bricks, marked an immediate failure. And honestly, personally, maybe I think they should. I don't know if they're actually gonna do that, because gaming is such an absolute massive powerhouse industry, bringing in more than the movie industry. And Google has so much damn money that they could just keep spending money on this for a long, long time, just so they have a foothold in another big money-making industry, They might be willing to pay up just to say that they're in it. Or they might be looking at it in the long term, spend lots of money for the next few years in the hopes of finally breaking in just because they can. I mean, they've acquired studios to make games for Stadia. They've hired heavyweights like Phil Harrison behind so many other consoles, and even the famous developer and leader Jade Raymond. It does seem like they're honestly trying here, but the biggest battle is they have to make people want it. And I know the hardcore crowd definitely doesn't. And the casual crowd, it's still a lot to convince and teach them what it actually is. So it's one of two ways, really. It either keeps on keeping on and gets better and finds a foothold with a respectable customer base as it continues to build, or it keeps on keeping on and gets better and then still manages to just kind of fade out. I think it would have a much brighter future if there weren't other services and big companies out there trying to do somewhat similar things in different ways. Stadia has a lot of competition. PC gamers have various ways of streaming their library playable to different devices. Microsoft's xCloud project is still early, but first impressions of it is, as a game service, are pretty solid. And at least you can access your current library in an ecosystem that you have already spent money in, and the Game Pass stuff, And then PlayStation is making strides as well. And they're all presumably ramping it up more for the next generation. Now, whether it's just straight streaming games or downloading them for later use, the competition deck is really stacked. And a lot of that competition is kind of looking at least a little better than this stuff, whether you want it or not. So that's where we're at. This is more of a conversation video, and we're looking forward to seeing the comments. Now, before you do comment, ask yourself, what would Google have to do to make you want Stadia? If you had perfect internet and you could and maybe wanted to stream games, what would Stadia need? Do you want a marketplace? Do you want a store? Or consider this, how could Stadia convince people that streaming games is the future? Because it doesn't seem like at least us people in the hardcore crowd want it at all. Now, how could that change? Of course, all of this is theoretical, and there are some people out there that are super into this, and maybe they are loving their Stadia. So we want to, hear from as many people as possible, because I think this conversation is ongoing. This is probably not going to be the last time we talk about Stadia. It's definitely not top of mind at all. I know we're not thinking about it every day at this point already, considering it only launched in November, but still, it's fun to talk tech, So let us know in the comments what you think, but if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out, and subscribing and hitting that notification bell if you're new is a really cool thing to do, because we put out videos every single day. So thank you. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.